He's an old head.
Youngins are really starting to get on my damn nerves.
He's a purveyor of nonsense. He's a Georgia high school coaching job influencer. His favorite Bible verse is Jesus wept. He's the man of constant sorrow, Chris Lamb.
Yeah.
Sun Coaches Podcast would like to thank our sponsor, Vertical Raise. Elevate your program's fundraising this season with Vertical Raise. Vertical Raise is the premier online fundraising platform for organizations of all sizes using innovative technology to create the easiest and most efficient system available. Raise more money in less time with your local fundraising coach, who works with you every step of the way to customize the ideal fundraiser for your program. To find out more, reach out to Justin Kilpatrick at justink@verticalraise.com or follow at Vertical Raise, capital G, capital A, on X. Justin Kilpatrick is a territory sales representative. His number is 229-860-0057. Again, you can reach him at justink@verticalraise.com. Justin is good people. I've met him at a golf tournament this summer, and he's done a lot of good work for a lot of programs over the state. Reach out and see what he can do for your program. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, and today I've got the head coach at Effingham County High School, good friend of mine, Coach John Ford. Thanks for being with us, Coach.
Coach Lamb, thank you for having me, brother. It's an honor to be on here with the mayor of Southern Hills, one of the greatest golf courses in the 478. And if I had known, if I'd been a little more familiar with you back during COVID, my wife would kick me out of the house about once a week, just get sick of me. And I would ride down to Southern Hills and play 9, play 18, hit a bag of balls, do whatever, just try to stay out of trouble at the house.
Heck yeah, we could have done that. We could have made that happen. And
probably got a couple up in your backyard.
And well, yeah, they've been repurposed and they've been lost again. I promise you.
and let me be real clear. I ain't worth a pinch of goat piss as a golfer. You would have walked the dog on me, but we'd had a good time.
Well, I'm not very good either. I'd also like to point out that you are the only Atlanta Hawks fan that I actually know. So that's pretty cool.
Well, it's a personality disorder, really, is what it is. It's some sort of self-loathing thing that I can't quit. It's like an addiction, like some people have nicotine, some people have other vices, and mine is Atlanta sports, and I might as well just kick myself in the nuts.
So that being said, where'd you grow up and play high school ball?
I grew up in Snellville, Georgia. Was really fortunate to be a really bad player on a really good couple of teams for Brookwood High School, and played on the 96 and 97 teams that went 13-2 and won a state title, and went 13-1 and lost in the semis to a really good TIFF team, and just had some really great coaches, and Dave Hunter and Ray Allen and Mark Cruz and Benji McLean and David Nelson, and just some guys that really had a really positive impact on my life. And like I said, I was a bad player on a good team, and played with a lot of Phillip Jones and Cleet Pickett and Eddie Overdyke and Kurt McGill and Bradley Hall and Paul Freeman, and just a bunch of really good football players. And was just really, really blessed to be on those teams, and played in some big games and big environments. And just, if that doesn't scratch your football itch, nothing will.
So where'd you go to college?
Went to Clemson, and, had every intention of walking on, but, it's a funny thing that Clemson University at the time wasn't looking for defensive backs that ran a 5.2 40, or quarterbacks that receivers that had the same measurables, and so just figured that was it for football for me. I tried it, awesome. It didn't work out, no big deal. I'm gonna go be a business major and make $1 billion and drive a fancy car and, start a bunch of businesses and do all that thing. But, like I always say, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, and just miss being a part of a team. And because of the impact that some coaches had on me, and, I got involved in a high school outreach program up there in the upstate of South Carolina, and just decided that, education was the right path for me. And so my junior year, it was kind of late in the process, switched to education, and finished up in 2 years, and actually majored in Spanish education, because I thought, well, if teaching, kind of hedging my bets, I guess, if teaching's not for me, maybe I can look back into business or do something, and being bilingual will help. And graduated and got my first job at Westside High School in Anderson, South Carolina. My current bride, obviously girlfriend at the time, she was finishing up her master's degree at Clemson. So the state of South Carolina at the time, if you taught in a Title I school, would pay your loans off at 20% a year, or if you taught a critical needs subject, because there was a big teacher shortage at the time. And then if you taught a critical needs subject at a Title I school, they'd pay it off at 33% a year, and that seemed like a good deal to me. So I went and just kind of the closest school to that fit that criteria was Westside High School in Anderson, South Carolina. And Anderson's a cool little town, and coached there for 3 years and had a blast. You talk about stories. I wish there was stuff I had written down. I mean, I would come home. I was living with my brother at the time because he was finishing up school too. And he would always, we'd sit there and talk about whatever. And he would just say, you should write some of this stuff down. You could write a book. I mean, it was, well, we had a kid one time who was a good little defensive end, and he was doing something on somebody's land, and somebody ran him off his land because it was there was some rural parts to it, and he got real upset, and he came back with a hunting rifle and shot all the dude's cows.
Okay.
And another one, his mom caught him with something, and she wouldn't let him go to homecoming because she found something in his backpack. I don't even remember what it was, and so he got caught trying to burn her whole house down. So that's the kind of customers we were dealing with. So
awesome.
It was educational in more ways than one, but it was a good place to start my coaching career.
Well, they send us their best.
Yeah, they don't have any better than the ones they send us in August, and so
exactly.
It's not like they're saving somebody at home that they're not giving us.
Yeah, we're not getting a late draft pick.
Yeah,
they're all first rounders.
To be named later.
No, absolutely not. So you were there for 3 years. Where did you, so you broke back into Georgia after that? Yeah.
And just, I mean, God's grace and luck. There was a Spanish opening at Harrison High School, and, a guy that, God rest his soul. I don't think he gets enough credit for, just kind of in the conversation of the state of Georgia, because he wasn't a lifer. He came down here the last 10, 15 years of his career. I got to work for Bruce Cobley, and anybody that knows Bruce, just knows that he's just a freaking football coach, man. And I'd have done anything for him. I'd have coached for him for 1,000 years if he had stayed at Harrison. I'd have coached his 9th grade nose guards and coached him as hard as I could. And, just started 9th grade ball. And buddy, I thought that was as good as it got. Like he came in and gave me the little, coach's gear the first time, in August or whenever it was. And I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. And then you could just tell Bruce was just different as a tactician and a worker and a football coach. And I just tried to just shut up. And if he was in a room, I was going to try to be in the room, but I wasn't going to say a word. I was just going to try to listen and, do whatever he asked me to do. And if he said, I wasn't even thinking about a coordinator spot, I was happy to coordinate the equipment room and happy to coordinate the laundry. Just being able to be at a place that had a bunch of really good football coaches and a bunch of good players, and just to be able to be 25 years old and be in that environment, I was just really, really grateful, and just absolutely had a blast coaching for Bruce, and coached with him for his last 3 years before he retired. His son Eric was a heck of a soccer player and got a full scholarship at Furman, and so I think he realized that it was time to go watch Eric play soccer, and because college soccer is in the fall. And so when he retired, Roswell, Tim McFarland had just retired, and they promoted Leo Barker to be head coach, and Leo Barker was a Spanish teacher. And so when they lightened his class load a little bit, it opened up a Spanish slot at Roswell, and I lived closer to Roswell than I did Harrison. And Leo and I, Coach Barker and I, hit it off, and he's an unbelievable one. You said you're going to talk to Coach Dudley. I think Coach Barker's with Coach Dudley now at Blessed Trinity, and Coach Barker is one of the best human beings in coaching anywhere in America. Just a phenomenal human being and a phenomenal football coach. So I was able to go over to Roswell and work with him and be his special teams coordinator and be his running backs coach.
With the ever elusive, I have a Spanish opening, need a football coach. You're him. You're that guy.
You're the two. I know Louis Daniels, who used to be at Lambert, was a Spanish teacher as well. And we actually, a couple of years ago, played in the playoffs in 2014. So I guess more than a couple of years ago. And I said, buddy, I guarantee you one thing. There ain't anywhere else in the country where two Spanish teachers are duking it out tonight.
Isn't that the truth? You hear that every year. People are like, all right, we've got a coaching slot we're looking for. And then there's, random subject areas. And there's
I need an O-line coach and a secondary coach. And all I have is AP calculus, AP environmental science and welding.
Yeah. Oh, I bet y'all get a lot of emails and phone calls on those.
Yeah. Hey, just resumes pouring in the
inbox. Yeah. Especially now when nobody can find a coach. So you're at Roswell with Coach Barker for how long?
I was with Coach Barker. I was with him for 3 years as an assistant. And then his wife was a huge executive at UPS. I mean, big time executive. I don't know what her title was, but I know she was way smarter and way more qualified to do stuff than me, which kind of confirmed that I probably shouldn't have gone in the business world because people like her would have ate me up. So she got transferred, I want to say to California, where she was a huge swath of the country. I think was under her purveyance. And so Justin Sanderson became the head coach and just a good friend of mine. So I was fortunate to be his OC for 2 years. And then he stepped down and I was completely unqualified and completely blessed to be named the head coach after that. So 2013, I was head coach at Roswell.
So that was your first head coaching gig. How was that?
Yeah, I mean, drinking out of a fire hose like it is for everybody else. It's like being a parent. You think you're ready and you don't know what you know till you get in that chair, and you talk to people and you have mentors and you ask questions and do all the work and do all the prep going in. But it just until you spend a year in that chair, you just don't. You can't be ready for it till you do it. So a lot of fun. Roswell's a great town. It's unbelievable people there. It's weird for a metro town because it's in the suburbs and Georgia 400 and all that stuff. And, obviously Metro Atlanta's kind of engulfed it, but it's still got a sense of community. Roswell and Milton have played, 70 some odd times, I think. And, they were two kind of outside the perimeter communities back in the day. They were little small towns outside of Atlanta. Like my wife moved to Alpharetta in the 80s. And that's because that was as close to the city as they could afford because it was kind of out in the country. And, obviously now the metro has engulfed them, but Roswell still kind of got its own identity. So a lot of good people that worked really, really hard to get that thing turned around because it had fallen a little bit from where Coach Mack had it and Coach Barker had it. And so, I got real lucky in terms of I was able to coach with Bruce for a couple of years and had him with me and hired a guy named Tommy Gilstrap and had some other really, really good assistants on staff, some guys from Roswell like Jamel Ransby and Jermaine Phillips and Kevin Silver and Rick Obuck and Lee Culp and guys like that just really just grinded and just worked their freaking tails off and had some good people in the community, I'm going to forget names because it's been so long, but guys like Jamie Roberts and guys like Doug Diebolt that really, really helped, just kind of everybody was just working together to get that place to back what it should. And, it was an unbelievable 4 years, and I was really grateful for it.
And you parlayed that into Buford, right?
Yeah. I was the guy that was, I think about Kalen DeBoer right now replacing Nick Saban because I probably went through a lot of what he's feeling right now, and I was the one dumb enough to sign up to replace Jess and Coach Simpson. And Buford it's just an awesome place, and I'm nothing but gratitude for that place and for the opportunity to have a place like that. And I mean, I'm the coach I am today because of the 2 years I spent there and so grateful for it. And I wasn't a great fit for it. And I, they knew that pretty quick, and that, coaching's fit as much as it is anything. And, the only thing I feel bad about is I probably didn't give them my best, because there's certain things I couldn't learn till I'd had that, adversity and like I said, didn't do my best coaching work there, but grateful for the opportunity and grateful for the kids and grateful for the community. And it's a special place. And when you get there, you kind of just understand they just love it, man. They love the Wolves there. And it's awesome to be a part of.
So then you reset.
Yeah. I interviewed that winter for a couple of head coaching jobs, and, God knew exactly what he was doing. My heart wasn't in any of the interviews. I was a little bit burned out. It had been 6 years of ripping and running. In that time, I'd had 2 kids born. I needed a reset, and God got, like you said, Spanish teacher, Vaughn Lassiter at Bleckley County. And Vaughn's one of the best dudes in the state, one of the best coaches in the state. I mean, they should name the stadium, the town, whatever they have down there in Cochran, Georgia, they should name after him for what he's done for that place and to that place. He needed a DC, and I needed a place where I could take my family for a couple of years and reconnect and do a better job as a husband and do a better job as a daddy to my 3 little girls. And didn't think I would ever leave the metro, but just felt like that's where I was supposed to be. And, my wife needed a job. She's a counselor, and it checked every box. And we were both sitting in there, and hey, we're going to Cochran with Vaughn, and we're going to be part of the Royal Nation. And man, you talk about some good people down there. Holy smokes. And some good coaches. I mean, the coaches Vaughn's brought to through that school. And I mean, a long list of better coaches than me have come through there. And he's, I mean, like I said, as good as it gets as a man of faith and a leader and a winner. I mean, he checks everybody. I don't know if you've had him on yet, but you need to.
Yeah, I need to reach out to him. I haven't. I've got connections between Will Connor came after you.
Yep.
Was the DC after you, and Harbor was with him.
Yep. Yeah.
And,
yeah, man.
They've got, and I've got his number. I just haven't. I've got such a list of people that I'm trying to, people.
Long and distinguished for a man like you.
Well, I don't know about that. It's just, you get to know a lot of people, or you just take flyers. You're like, hey, I need you to be on the podcast. And people are like, sure. And, and then it's trying to match up schedules. And
that's right.
I'm, trying to get people on. But yeah, Cochran's a neat place. I mean, it's a really, it's almost like a private school set up in a public rural situation, really.
Yeah, and it really is. And they've got, because of the college and because of the the air base in Warner Robins, a lot of people will live there and commute to the air base. So you get like you get a lot of interesting families, and it was a cool dynamic. Like you said, they dominated like girls tennis and cross country and things like. I mean, they absolutely just dominated that because of the clientele that live in that town. But then they've got a bunch of Amaris Mims, first round draft pick, Bryce Bailey, state 100-meter champ, Nakeem Farrow, state 100-meter champ, ends up going to Middle Tennessee State and Kennesaw State and those kind of places. So you get some really good athletes. So, in terms of your 3:30 to 6 o'clock every afternoon, it was fun because you had some good football players that would run and hit all day. And it was kind of my first experience outside of the metro. And, Middle Georgia kids and South Georgia kids sometimes are different than metro kids, and that there's not as much to do around there. So, I mean, they'll go all day if you want them to, because when they go home, there's not a whole lot there. So, and like I looked at the schedule at first, I was like, is that all right? Like, the kids are all right? And he was like, yeah, these kids, they'll go all day. And they work out and then practice, and, they'd be disappointed when you were done. So it was awesome place to be. And then selfishly and luckily, it was a good place to be during COVID. It was just a good place for your family to be during COVID. I mean, just, we're locked down, and the principal and the superintendent and everybody were just, they weren't stressing over your Google Classrooms. They were just, hey, take care of your kids, communicate with your kids, relationships before rigor, make sure you are looking out for your students, make sure you're taking care of your family. And so it was being in that 2020 window. There were a lot worse places to be than Cochran, Georgia. Like I said, my wife kicked me out of the house once a week, and I ended up in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, it's just, 10 minutes down the road?
Yeah.
It's
You talk
not
about
far.
a pretty drive too. Holy smokes.
It's not bad as long as you don't get stuck behind a tractor. You'll be all right, which does
Exactly right.
happen. You try to tell
Yeah.
people in Metro that, they're like, well, how long does it take you to go, wherever? Me and Dobson talked about this last week. It's like, well, however far away it is, it's that many minutes. Where
Yeah.
in Metro, it's not that way. It might
Yeah.
take you 30 minutes to go 5 miles.
Yeah. If we had a road game in Cherokee or Forsyth County or even parts of East Cobb, it might be 10 miles. It might be 45 minutes to an hour or more. So here, they're down in middle Georgia. It's, hey, is it 30 miles? And it's 30 minutes.
So you leave Vaughn and now you're headed closer to the coast.
Yeah. And I always thought like we'd end up back in the Metro. And like I said, if you want to make God laugh, you just tell him your plans. And it was a weird deal. I had heard Effingham County might have an opening. And it was right towards the end. It was actually game 10 for us. We had week 11 was a bye week. Game 10, we were supposed to play on a Thursday night, but the school we were supposed to play had canceled because of COVID. So it was a Friday. Didn't have anything to do. My wife and daughter were going out of town to see her sister. Her daughters were going out of town to see her sister. And then there was really nobody. We were going to scout the following week because we didn't know the other region had Vidalia and Jeff Davis and Swainsboro maybe and a couple other teams that maybe we could play, and we didn't know which one. We knew it would be narrowed down the next week, so we were going to go scout the next week. So, I mean, how many times, you talk about the good Lord's providence, how many times in late October as a football coach do you have a Friday night with literally nothing to do? You didn't have a game to grade. You didn't have a game to prepare for the following week, really. And your family's out of town. So I knew Effingham wasn't far away because we'd gone to Savannah a couple of times and driven through Effingham County on our way to Savannah. But that was really my only experience with it, was just driving through on the way to the coast and going to Tybee or somewhere like that. And so I was like, I'll just drive and check it out. And then, see what it looks like. And drove down and went down 16 and, got off at exit 137 and kind of just wove through and was like, man, it's freaking pretty down here. Just the aesthetics and the Spanish moss and the kind of the coastal and the palm trees. And I was like, man, I kind of like just the vibe of this place, and drove by the school, and the facility looked nice, and drove through Guyton and Springfield and Rincon and thought, yeah, this is I thought it might be a little more rural, and it wasn't. I mean, it's got obviously all the trappings of Metro, and then you start kind of doing your homework and you realize Gulfstream's right down the road in Pooler, and they're expanding. The Port of Savannah is expanding. Hyundai had just launched a huge EV plant that was going to be in Bryan County, but because of where they were in Bryan County and where Fort Stewart is, a lot of the growth was going to head back Effingham's way. You did your homework on, one of my best friends, William Pinnell, who's my defense coordinator now. He was coaching at Brunswick at the time, and we talked about their personnel and some of the things that he thought they could do with the kids they had on a roster, and they played them in region. And got a feel for the superintendent and the principal. And I mean, gosh, Terrence Banks, who I know you've had on the pod before and is awesome. We were talking one time, probably around 2019 and 2020, somewhere in there. And he said, don't chase facilities, don't chase prestige, don't even chase talent, chase leadership. Because if you have leadership and if y'all are aligned, then you've got a shot. And when I met Dr. Ford, the superintendent, no relation, obviously. And when I met, everybody involved in the totem pole, the principal was Amy Dickerson at the time. It's Coach Greg Maynor, former football coach. And hey, he'd be a good one to have on the pod because he's a principal now, but he's been a head football coach in South Georgia and the Metro. You kind of meet all the stakeholders and you realize there was a lot of alignment, a lot of shared vision, a lot of shared values, a lot of desire to take, Effingham football somewhere that it hadn't been since Bob Griffith was there in the 80s and rocking and rolling and played for a state championship. But they hadn't been anywhere close to that. They hadn't won a region title since 95 or 96. Only hosted one or two playoff games in the previous 25 years or so. But there was a strong desire to get Effingham to where they felt like it could be, it should be, and a much smaller scale, obviously, kind of the growth in Effingham and some of the things that were happening close to Effingham, but not in Effingham, reminded me of being in Gwinnett County when I was growing up. The growth of Atlanta was obviously at a much bigger scale than what was happening or what's currently happening in our place. But like I said, similar vibe in terms of the growth is coming, but the infrastructure and the people are going to live where we are, in Effingham County and South Effingham, Rankin, Guyton, Springfield areas. And so there was just a lot of upside. And I guess I've just never been afraid of a challenge. Knew it was going to take a lot of work. Knew it was going to take a lot of good people. Brought my wife to this interview and just said, hey, if you have any bad vibe whatsoever, if you feel at all like, this wouldn't be good for all of us, then you say no. And well, hey, I'll take my happy rear end back to Bleckley and hang out with Vaughn and Ryan McKenzie and Brad Davis and a bunch of freaking awesome dudes. And we'll keep having a good time. And we just, played in the quarters and had a young defense. And, but we just kind of felt led that that's where the good Lord was leading our family, and it felt great about it. And so took the job and was able to get some really good football coaches and was able to bring in guys like Tommy Gilstrap and Coach Pinnell and Austin Osment. And there were some really good guys on staff that we were able to keep and just keep working. And we've had a decent little 3-year run, and but feel great about where we are for the future, and feel great about where we're building this thing and the facilities that the county is giving us, and the leadership that's in place, and it just feel great about where we're continuing to go with this thing.
Well, how did spring go for you guys this year? Going into this will be year 4, right?
Yes, sir. Spring went good. It was competitive. It was physical. Feel like our numbers are as good as they've been, in the last 4 years. Nobody ever has the depth they want. Everybody would want more linemen on both sides of the ball. There's not a coach right now that says, "God, I've got too many D linemen. I don't know what I'm going to do with all these guys." Nobody says I've got too many good football players. I wish I could get rid of 6 of these guys. But just feel great about some of the young guys that stepped up, and we played Richmond Hill, and Coach Lazat does an awesome job. And I mean, kind of what he did at Richmond Hill, was kind of proof of concept for me that it could be done at Effingham, and he's built Richmond Hill into as good a football program as there is around here, in our Savannah metro area. And you talk about a tough, fundamentally sound, physical football team that just does things the right way. He does a great job with it. So got to hook up with them for our spring game, and they just make you work. They make you better. You don't get worse playing guys like that. So it was good spring, and excited about where it leads us for the summer.
Well, that's awesome. Year 4, easier, would you say?
Yes and no. I mean, yes, because you got familiarity with the place and the people and things like that. I mean, it was a totally new place to us. I mean, the first time we'd ever really stepped foot in Effingham was, when we came down here to interview.
Just new challenges.
New challenges. It never gets easier. You know what I mean? Like, you just handle hard a little better, I guess, to steal that Carol Lawson quote. And we've got as hard a schedule as we've ever scheduled here. And I know nobody to look at but me for doing that. But we play, Wayne County in the scrimmage, and we open up at Houston County, and then we play New Hampstead. And buddy, you talk about people that can coach some ball, Jeremy Edwards at Hoco and his staff, and Kyle Hockman at New Hampstead and his staff. So, I wouldn't say, is it easier? No, because we're staring down the barrel of those guys. Before we get into region play, and I think our region is going to be outstanding. I think the 2 Glenn County schools are going to be outstanding. I think the Liberty, Bradwell throws it all over the yard. I mean, then you've got Statesboro, and Coach Dobson is doing phenomenal things there. And then South Effingham, our rival, and then, the Augusta schools. And so ain't no easy outs anywhere on our schedule, anywhere. 10 games, 12 weeks, and ain't a single one of them going to be easy.
Yeah, y'all are in that huge region where you had, 8 region games?
Yeah, eight region games, 2 non-region games, and the freaking geography. I mean, we're us, South Statesboro, we're kind of in the middle. it's not as bad for us. But I mean, Brunswick and Glenn having to drive to Augusta, or those 3 Augusta schools, Greenbrier, Evans, and Lakeside, having to drive to Brunswick or Glenn, with stops at Effingham or Bradwell or Statesboro or South Effingham in the middle. It's crazy, but you play who you got to play.
Yeah, when I was the head coach at Richmond Academy in 06, we were in that region.
Holy
and in a
smokes.
3-week span, let's see, Ware came to us. And we went Brunswick, to Brunswick, Ware came to us, to Glenn.
Good night.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
And we weren't very good either. So and we didn't have any business being in that classification. But the way Augusta did, Richmond County did stuff, you didn't play. You did what was geographically advantageous to region placement, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, 100%.
So you ended up outclassed and, we were fine in Augusta,
Yep.
But anyway, that was interesting. But yes, I know I'm, and growing up in Augusta, I'm very unfortunately familiar with, they're it's far. I mean, there's no easy way to do it. I mean, there's to reach all the regions or whatever. There's somebody's getting left out.
Yeah, I mean, like it becomes kind of the quandary that GHSA has been put in many times. Like, with the Augusta schools, Grovetown got bumped to 6, but where do they go? I mean, do they go to Region 1, or do they go to one of the regions that's got Gwinnett and Archer and Grayson and all that in it? And there's just, I don't know. Those are problems I'm glad I don't have to figure out, because I'm not smart enough to do it. Like, Region 1, I mean, poor Richmond Hill, they got 250 miles round trip for their region every Friday night.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
And that's, we talk about that on Friday nights, but those Tuesday, Friday basketball, baseball games are.
Yeah. How about your poor girls softball team, or your basketball, your baseball team having to play a doubleheader and then come back from, 190 miles away? Yeah,
that's a problem. And that's something that big brains should be able to figure out. But so over the years, changing gears, what are some things that you've seen change? What have you noticed the most in Georgia high school football that's changed, not so much for the bad, but just biggest changes you've seen as far as the game the game of high school football? Not necessarily the X's and O's, but just because you've coached at some pretty high profile places. You've been at a small place, and now you're kind of at a rural place that's had success traditionally, but
yeah.
So you've run the gambit of been some places.
Yeah.
How's it changed?
Ray Allen, Coach Ray Allen always used to say, "I've been around the world twice and down Niagara Falls in a barrel," and I kind of feel like that now. High school football in Georgia is so good, and it's easy. It's so easy to be a critic. It's so easy to say, well, this, that, and the other, recruiting this, or social media that, and kids this, or parents that, and all that stuff's true, man. But Georgia high school football is just, there's not much on the planet like it. Like, there's just not much better than Friday night at 7:30. That first one in August, or that big time rival when you're walking into their stadium or they're walking into yours, or, that region defining championship game in late October, or those playoff games, practicing on Thanksgiving, and the things that we're allowed to do to get ready for it. I mean, with social media, the world's a lot smaller, and you talk to coaches in other places and they don't have spring ball, or they don't see their kids till August, or they don't, they're not allowed to see their kids till July, or they there's so many places it could be worse. And the amount of information and the amount of scheme stuff that's out there, like, you've got to bring it every Friday night. It doesn't matter if you're single A, it doesn't matter if you're 2A, it doesn't matter if you're 6A, it doesn't matter if you're, the now defunct 7A. Like, there's nowhere you're going to drop in. You're not going to parachute in somewhere and have a decided schematic advantage over an entire classification or an entire region or entire area. Like, everybody knows ball, and everybody knows how to get their kids locked in and ready to go. So it's just, I don't know. Like, I think about the teams on our schedule, and I get fired up about it. I get fired up about the challenges, and I get fired up about the opportunities, and I get fired up about, being able to get my kids, trying to get my kids ready to hunt on a Friday night, and going against somebody that I know is doing the same for their kids. And, it's really special no matter where you go. I mean, shoot, you know how it is in the 478. Shoot, Bleckley Dodge or Bleckley Hawkinsville will be the Super Bowl in those towns, and it is unbelievably impactful and meaningful for those towns. And so, don't tell those towns that it means more or less than Mill Creek and Collins Hill or something like that, or Brookwood and Parkview back in the day, or Lowndes and Valdosta. I mean, those are unbelievable games too, but it means just as much to the people of Cochran to be able to, beat Dodge and carry that around for 364 days, or, it means just as much to the people of Effingham County when we play our crosstown rivals. So, it's a special game. I always try to say it, because I've probably got more sand in the bottom of the hourglass than the top now. You never know for sure, but probably feel like that's the way it is right now. And, just try to focus more on the positives than negatives. Parents and social media can be a pain in the butt. Sometimes I feel like as coaches, we have to be performers and presenters of our program. I remember at Harrison, when we would do our fall scrimmages, we did them in practice uniforms. And I feel like we played Pope or somebody without even the scoreboard on. And they were in practice jerseys and we were in practice jerseys. And now you got to have your game jerseys. And now the cheerleaders got to be there. Now the band's got to be there. But you know what? All that stuff's okay, because you're getting to coach football in Georgia, and it's hard to get too upset with that.
That's right. And Terrence, I haven't had Coach Banks on yet. I'm trying. We were all on a podcast together with Chris Parker.
Yeah.
And because I went on a rampage about something, and you put in the chat, let him cook. And because I went on a rampage about the next topic I'd like for you to tell me what you think about. And that is, how has the coaching profession changed as far as the way coaches are now than they were when we got started?
I don't know. This might, I don't know, controversial, ruffle some feathers, whatever. I don't know. I felt like coaches maybe back in the day, and this is probably, we're all a product of our experiences, but I remember when I first got going at Harrison, like, the Walton guys would come over and we just kind of talk. Or when I was at Roswell, Trip Allen would come by on a Saturday because he didn't live too far from there. And, we might try to beat each other's brains out Friday at 7:30. But then after the game, everything was all copacetic and nobody really got in their feelings. And sometimes I just feel like coaches, nowadays we're maybe a little more territorial, maybe a little more protective of our whatever. And I don't know what that is, but it feels like there's less, I don't know, congeniality in the coaching profession, for lack of a better phrase there, between styles. And shoot, just because we wear a different polo doesn't mean I can't, after the game, call you my brother and tell you I love you, and we try to beat each other's brains out for 3 hours on a Friday night, and then Saturday, let's go to the kids' t-ball game and, watch them play t-ball and talk about the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that has changed. You wouldn't, you used to hang out at the clinic or whatever. That's the only time you'd see each other, and you'd hang out and have a good time and do whatever. And then, you, like you said, try to kill each other on Friday night, but then you just moved on. Everything was fine. It was easier to find coaches back then. People didn't move around as much.
Yeah. Yeah. There was probably, and you're probably speaking to a larger point, is there was less transience in the coaching profession. So, guys that coached together at Brookwood and wherever, when I was growing up, I don't remember, but maybe one or two coaches coming in and going. So those dudes stayed there for a while and probably knew the guys that coached down the road. And, there's probably a little more, I guess, just familiarity with them. But some of the fine, Rocky says it well, some of the finest men I know wear a whistle. And, this profession should be a brotherhood. And felt like it was that way, 05, 06, 07, 08, and somewhere along the lines, it feels a little more balkanized right now. And I don't really know why. Maybe that's just society. Maybe it's just coaching is kind of a reflection of the society we live in.
Yeah, could be. It's different.
Yeah.
It's definitely gotten different, and I've got a lot more sand in the bottom than the top, as you say. And but I do know this: I have not had to suffer being an Atlanta sports fan, other than the Braves, like you have suffered.
Well, hey, when I die, just put Atlanta sports fan on my tombstone, and everybody will understand.
Well, let's start with the Falcons. I'm a Saints fan. I always have been. My brother is a huge Falcon. Yeah, I know. My brother's a huge Falcons fan. He cried.
How are you a Saints fan growing up in Augusta?
I just am. I'm a Tennessee fan.
Bobby Hebert? What are we?
I was way before that. I was way before that.
Archie Manning? Like, what are we talking about?
I don't know. I just like the Black Watch defense. I wasn't a Georgia fan growing up. My whole family was.
Yeah.
And so I'd pull for Georgia Tech just to spite them. I guess it was because the black and gold.
Yeah,
they look like Georgia Tech, so I'm going to pull for those guys.
Sam Mills. We'll say it's Sam Mills.
Yes, the Black Watch defense. Yes, those guys. I can say
Ricky
this.
Jackson.
We've got a ring.
Hey, you do. And a Roswell grad named Chris Reese recovered that doggone onside kick for you.
Yes,
and,
he did.
He's a pastor at a church in New Orleans now. So
appreciate you.
He recovered that onside kick for you, and that was one of the best calls in the history of Super Bowl. But Sean Payton had his little bounty watch suspension. So, but hey, y'all got a ring, and the Falcons, I will probably die before they have one. And if they ever do get one, you're gonna have to come bail me out of jail because I'm gonna go make a fool of myself.
My brother actually cried the first time he ever went to a Falcons game. Grown man cried like the daddy of Rudy.
That's awesome. Hey, Notre Dame, I can, especially back in the day, I can kind of understand. Don't cry over the Falcons. It's not worth it.
Yeah, I don't think he hadn't gotten the memo. I mean, there's no telling how many sleepless Sundays he spent going into work on Monday, not hungover, just depressed.
Yeah, depressed and angry. Yeah, they'll do that to you. They will do that to you.
So then we'll move to the Hawks. How on earth? Well, no, let's back up. How about your draft this year?
Oh, the Falcons?
Yeah. Were you shocked?
Well, yeah. And people put a wellness check on us.
I asked about
the police
you on
knocked
Twitter.
on my door saying, hey, Mr. Ford, are you okay? Like, we've had a couple of concerned calls. So here's the whole day. You know what? Michael Penix was fun to watch, man. That Washington, Texas game was among the most fun college games of the last 5 years. In the NFL, there's two great competitive advantages. The number one competitive advantage is if you have Patrick Mahomes in his prime, or you have, Peyton Manning or Tom Brady in their prime, and you've got one of the best quarterbacks. You got Lamar Jackson in his prime, and you've got one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. That's competitive advantage number one. Competitive advantage number two is you, have a quarterback on a rookie contract, and you take the 50 or 60 million that you're not having to pay a really good quarterback. This is the Packers last year with Jordan Love. You take that 50 or 60 million, you're not paying a top flight quarterback, even though he's performing at a high level, and you build an unbelievable roster around, like Joe Burrow when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl. He's on a rookie contract, so they could pay all those dudes. The Falcons, and maybe Kirk Cousins is awesome. I hope he is, but to say he's a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen or a Aaron Rodgers in his prime or one of those guys is probably not the case. And then you've got a rookie quarterback, and maybe he's awesome. Maybe he's an unbelievable quarterback, but you're not going to play him on his rookie deal. So you're going to take that 50 million savings and just give it to another quarterback. It just defies logic. It defies reason. And I don't know why I was shocked. I mean, the Falcons have been among the worst teams at rushing the passer since 2016 when Vic Beasley had a really good year at Daresville High, Georgia high school football, Clemson Tiger. And the quarterbacks can throw routes on air against the Falcons. And, there's a pretty good edge rusher there. And they just, we're good. We'll just take a backup quarterback for a couple of years. And when he's ready to play, we'll have to pay him, but we don't know if he's any good yet because we paid this other guy. It's the Falcons. I don't know why I was surprised, but I actually was. And so maybe just they'll spend the rest of my life coming up with new ways to surprise me and let me down.
Well, I mean, I should have prefaced with, I don't have anything at all against the young man, his abilities, his talents. I was just kind of shocked that, when your team's as bad as the Falcons and you have some other needs,
Yeah, and they've got other needs because they've been 7-10 for the last 3 years. But
maybe build up some other dudes and third or fourth round go get you a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, but
the Falcons are going Falcon.
Yeah, they're going Falcon, and it's I'm okay if the process is good and you lose. Okay, cool. The process was good and you lose. Sometimes you just get beat. But when the process is dumb, and then something bad happens, like when they were real quick to tell everybody in the world Desmond Ridder was the next great quarterback, and it's like, all right, well, if he sucks, then it's going to be a problem, and that's kind of what happened.
So let's move to the Hawks,
buddy. How much time you got?
Well, I would say how much you need, but that would roll into season 37.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I don't think. This is great content here. We're gonna let this idiot in Southeast Georgia ramble on about an hour.
No, see no. What makes it great is you grew up in Snellville. You are a true Atlanta fan.
Yeah, maybe I love Dominique Wilkins. Obviously, as a kid.
I did too.
And my dad took me to a couple of games. I remember we went to a Knicks game when they had Patrick Ewing and John Starks and all those guys, and I've always liked basketball, even though I'm not very good at it. Like I said, unathletic white guy. But I always liked basketball, and I liked the Braves too growing up, but baseball was just never my deal. I think I was too ADD for it. And so maybe loyalty is a personality defect I have, because I can't just say, well, I'm just going to be a Warriors fan because I like Steph, or I'm just going to be a Bucks fan because I like Giannis. So I pull for the Hawks, and like the Falcons, they come up with creative ways to let me down. And the owner is the 7th richest owner in the NBA, but he dumps salary every year and just isn't real interested in being competitive. So, just pray for me if I ever see him, because I'll probably lose my religion for about 30 seconds.
No, I just think it's funny because you are very passionate about Atlanta sports, and it's just I'm not a pro sports guy. Like I have favorite players. Like Barry Sanders was my favorite.
Oh man,
football player, and I love the Braves. I didn't think I would live to see them win one, much less two.
Exactly.
So it's like the University of Georgia. I was alive when they won their first national championship. I didn't think I would live to see them win another one, much less another one. I just didn't think.
And you'd be foolish to bet on anybody else other than them this year. Maybe Texas, maybe Ohio State, but I just think Kirby's got that thing operating at such a high level. I just think Georgia's going to be too tough and out.
And it just, stuff like that just doesn't. I think it's neat that you're that into it, because it's another way you can relate to the kids. I have to ask them who's playing. They make fun of me. They're like, dude, I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea who's playing. I hear on the radio the Mavericks got a chance to sweep the Timberwolves.
Yep.
Tonight or tomorrow night, whenever they play.
Yeah, it'll be tonight. Game 4 tonight.
And then I know the Celtics are playing the Pacers. Is that right? Yeah,
Celtics are playing the Pacers. And they swept them last night. So Celtics, this will date the podcast whenever you play it, but Celtics have advanced, and they're waiting on whoever wins the Mavericks.
Yeah,
Wolves series.
See, I have no idea. No clue. Yeah. No idea.
No, there's
whatsoever.
other stuff I don't know about. I just, I follow football and basketball. I don't have time for a whole bunch else.
But I like college. I keep up with girls softball and girls basketball and baseball, and I like college sports better than pro sports. I don't know why. I just do. And I guess I don't have enough, I got too much going on to keep up with.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, there's kind of a statute of limitations. If you're going to stay married, keep this job, and see your kids grow up at all, there's only a couple of hobbies you can have. I'm not worth a piss golfing, hunting, or fishing. So, I punish myself by becoming an Atlanta sports fan.
Well, there you go. Well, Coach, I sure have enjoyed having you on. One of the greatest guys in the business for sure. Been around some really good people, really good guys, and you can tell that it's spilled over into what you're doing.
Well,
I've enjoyed
grateful and appreciative, my friend. Yes, sir. And thank you for all you do for covering high school football, and doing what you do in the wintertime with connecting people and always taking phone calls or always answering messages. You are more appreciated than you know, my friend.
Well, when you're not good at what you're supposed to be doing, you got to find something that you can.
So maybe I need to look into that. Then.
Yeah, I got to find something I can actually help some folks with. So that's all we try to do, and it's going to be great watching you continue to help the young men in Effingham County. God knows, young men these days they need good leaders and good men leading them. And you're definitely one of those guys, and I sure do appreciate you.
Man, I appreciate you. Come on down here sometime, and we'll go chop it up at one of the local courses around here, and I need some good seafood or some good barbecue.
Sounds good, boss.
All right, brother. Be blessed.
And you too.